Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a hidden world. It's far more complex, really,
Yeah.
and pervasive than you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about counterfeit goods.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this headline recently in the South China Morning Post that just grabs you, right? Inside Southeast Asia's booming trade in fakes that the U.S. hates.
Yeah, that paints a picture.
It really does. And this isn't just, a few knockoff bags you might spot somewhere. This is huge, a vast, shadowy economy.
Often seen as just a harmless bargain, maybe.
Exactly. But it has these really far-reaching, damaging impacts. So our mission today is to explore the journey of these fakes, where they start maybe in Asia's markets all the way to places like New York City's Canal Street.
Right, uncovering those supply chains that fuel this whole illicit global trade.
Yeah.
And our goal here really is to pull out the key insights from our sources, help you understand not just what's going on, but why it matters, and how it all connects to a much bigger picture. One that, often stays hidden, but definitely impacts all of us.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Starting with the sheer scale, especially in Southeast Asia, like that article highlighted, the U.S. is really putting its foot down. There's this July 9th tariff deadline looming.
Yeah, that's significant.
We can see tariffs hitting like 49% for Cambodia, maybe 36% for Thailand. And the main reasons, well, it's intellectual property violations and this thing called transshipment.
Right, basically moving Chinese goods through other countries to avoid U.S. tariffs.
Precisely. And the fakes themselves, it's an incredible range. Not just handbags. We're talking Labubu dolls, Louis Vuitton, sure, but also Nike trainers, jewelry, Rolex.
And even riskier stuff like pharmaceuticals, perfumes.
Exactly. Things you really don't want fakes of. This sheer variety is just staggering.
It really is.
And just to give you a feel for it on the ground, picture being in Bangkok, the busy streets. You might run into someone, let's call him Rahul, selling imitation Rolexes openly.
Right out there.
Yeah. And our sources mentioned him bargaining a supposed Rolex down from like US $310 to just US $62 for two tourists.
Wow, that's quite a discount. Tells you something immediately.
An 80% drop. It screams fake.
Yeah.
And it shows how common this perception is. Oh, it's just a bargain, luxury on the cheap.
And watches are huge in this. According to the Swiss Watch Federation, they're the second most counterfeited item globally. Only clothing beats them.
It just feels like this massive, almost unwinnable battle for the real brands, trying to police this stuff everywhere.
Yeah, it's so dispersed. And what's really interesting is how this global thing, starting way over in Bangkok perhaps, shows up so locally, even in, say, New York City.
Right? Canal Street.
Exactly, downtown Manhattan. Historically, it's been the spot for counterfeit handbags, sneakers, belts, watches, you name it. And okay, sure, parts of Canal Street have been redeveloped. You see some legit brands moving in, which is interesting. But the counterfeit trade, it's still very much alive and kicking in other sections.
Very visible, yeah. An open secret, kind of. And that local side of it. Canal Street's probably the prime example. Let's take you there virtually. Imagine walking along. You see the cheap replicas first, right?
On blankets, tarps.
Yeah, just laid out. But that's only scratching the surface. Then you have the hawkers. They approach you kind of discreetly.
Whispering handbag, or maybe a designer name.
Exactly. And if you bite, they don't just pull it out from under the blanket. Often they're on their AirPods or their phone calling someone else to bring the item.
Ah, so it's coordinated.
Very. It's all semi-secretive. You might get led down an alley, maybe into an old nondescript building, or even, and this is where we'd say be careful.
Into vans or cars.
Yeah. Which then drive you somewhere else to these secret shops with the higher quality fakes. We really advise against getting into vehicles, obviously.
Definitely sounds risky.
And these hawkers, sometimes they have these laminated picture books showing you more options, colors, sizes.
Like a hidden menu.
Kind of. And payment.
Yeah.
Almost always cash. It's this whole unique, almost theatrical, underground experience.
Makes you think, if you're a tourist just looking for a deal, how fast you realize you're in way deeper.
But that lure, that Canal Street bargain, it really hides a much darker side, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It might feel like a bit of harmless fun or, a clever way to get luxury cheap. But the sources really stress the serious, often hidden fallout from this.
It's not just about the big brands losing money.
No, not at all. I mean, you had companies like the Real setting up a protest shop on Canal Street with fake bags, which, okay, it highlighted the illicit sales.
Right.
But it mostly focused on the financial loss for brands. It didn't really get into the the human rights issues tied up in making these things, which is a huge part of the story.
That's a crucial point. So, okay, if that's what we see on the street level, where does this stuff actually come from? Let's trace it
It's
back.
a good source.
Yeah, let's peel back those layers. Where do they begin? Sources confirm mostly Asia. Shenzhen in China is named as a key spot, a major manufacturing hub, yeah.
But it's not only China. We're seeing Cambodia, Vietnam, India, Thailand playing big roles too.
So how do they get the designs in the first place?
Good question. Multiple ways. During legitimate manufacturing, you have risks like theft of design data, prototypes, samples, standard industrial espionage almost. But there's also the risk of, let's say, spiteful or just ill-intentioned suppliers, or even customers leaking sensitive design info straight to the counterfeiters, so basically handing them the blueprint.
Which then leads to the really critical question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is actually making these goods and what are the conditions like?
Yeah.
And this is where it gets deeply disturbing. Our sources point to a strong link with forced labor.
That's grim.
Very. There's an example from the UK, actually, where fake masks were found being made in these unsterile sweatshops. And guess what? Those same places had previously been used to make fake handbags or designer jeans.
Wow. So they just pivot production based on demand.
Exactly. It shows the crossover. These illicit traders, they're ruthless about profit. That means using low-cost labor, sometimes no-cost labor. We're talking children, women, migrant workers.
People who are really vulnerable.
Extremely. These operations are kept in the dark. Workers face threats, violence, even deportation if they try to speak out. They're the hidden human cost behind that cheap bargain.
Okay, so they're made under these awful conditions. Then, how do they get across the world to end up on Canal Street? The logistics must be complex.
Incredibly complex and deliberately obscured. They use all sorts of tricks to hide the goods.
Like what?
Well, hiding fakes inside legitimate shipping containers, mixing them with genuine products, filing false import-export documents, the usual customs dodging.
Standard smuggling tactics.
Right. But they also do something called origin laundering.
Origin laundering, what's that?
Think of it like giving the fake goods a fake passport. They route them through multiple countries using really complicated long transit paths.
Making it hard to track back to the source?
Exactly. Different modes of transport, forged documents, misdeclaring what the goods actually are. Anything to hide the true manufacturing origin.
Clever in a criminal way.
And another tactic, ship the parts separately. Raw materials, components, then assemble them in the destination market. Or ship the product itself separate from, say, the fake logos or labels. Makes it harder for customs to catch the infringement in one go.
It's a constant shell game.
It really is. And a key weak spot they exploit in this whole journey, free trade zones, FTZs.
Ah, right. Aren't those meant to help legitimate trade?
They are. They're designed to boost trade by cutting tariffs, reducing bureaucracy. But our sources are blunt. They are direct facilitators of illicit trade.
How so?
Well, there's this misconception they're law-free zones. They're not. But criminals definitely exploit weaknesses like poor surveillance, maybe lax enforcement, not enough resources. Big ones. They use FTZs for everything. Production, storage, sales, transit, transshipment. They'll do assembly there, manufacturing, repackaging, relabeling, all designed to get around sanctions or just hide the fact that the goods are illicit. They've become crucial hubs for these operations.
Okay, so that's the physical movement. But then there's the internet. That must have changed things massively.
Oh, absolutely. The rise of online shopping has been a total game changer for counterfeiters. It's led to this huge increase in illicit trade moving via small parcels.
Small parcels. Like through the regular mail or courier services.
Exactly. Get this statistic. Back in 2018, almost 63% of all customs seizures of counterfeit goods were small parcels.
63%. That's enormous.
It is. And this method is especially big for luxury goods, FMCGs, fast-moving consumer goods, and pharmaceuticals. Fake consumer goods from China, for example, are flooding global markets through small parcels. And for fake leather goods going to the US and EU, postal parcels are the main way they travel.
Why are small parcels so effective for them? Seems counterintuitive, maybe.
Well, think about the volume. Customs just can't check everything. The verification process for small parcels is generally less strict than for, say, a huge shipping container.
Right, resource constraints.
Plus, it's easier for criminals to provide fake or incomplete information on the declaration forms. They can switch between different delivery companies, change their packaging constantly. It makes detection really difficult. It's a nonstop cat and mouse game, but scaled up massively by e-commerce.
Okay, so we have the manufacturing, the complex shipping, the online sales. What's the bigger structure behind all this? It sounds organized.
It absolutely is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this whole trade is deeply, deeply intertwined with organized crime and corruption.
Organized crime,
Yeah.
like mafia groups.
Yes, there's significant evidence linking organized criminal groups, OCGs, throughout the entire counterfeit supply chain. Production, distribution, everything.
Wow.
And it's interesting, for many OCGs, like the Mafia, the Camorra, Triads, Yakuza, counterfeiting is actually becoming, well, almost preferable to drug trafficking sometimes.
Really?
Lower risks, often lower penalties if caught, but the profit margins can still be incredibly high. It's that low risk, high reward scenario.
The sweet spot for criminals.
Pretty much. It lets them diversify their activities and launder money with maybe less heat than from drugs, and they often do it alongside their other activities: drug trafficking, human trafficking, extortion, money laundering. It's all part of the portfolio.
That's chilling. Didn't the sources mention a link to terrorism financing too?
They did. A specific shocking example: the weapons used in the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris were apparently financed, at least in part, by selling counterfeit goods. Fake Nikes, actually.
Fake Nikes help fund a terrorist attack. That's hard to process.
It shows the dangerous connections. And then there's corruption. It's described as a key enabler at every single level. Meaning bribes or influence paid to border officials, customs agents, people in regulatory bodies, maybe even judges. Just makes detecting and investigating these crimes incredibly difficult.
Greasing the wheels of the illicit trade.
Exactly. And the money they make, it gets laundered through all sorts of means. Complex financial structures, offshore accounts, just smuggling bulk cash, setting up shell companies.
Businesses.
Right. And also informal money transfer systems like Hawala, which is this ancient trust-based way to move money without actually moving cash physically across borders. Very hard to track.
So this isn't just about knockoff purses potentially funding criminals. It hits closer to home, right? For consumers, for the economy.
Absolutely. It's not just big brands losing revenue, though that happens. Economically, counterfeiting hits legitimate businesses hard. It means huge losses in tax revenue for governments.
Right.
And just the global food industry alone loses an estimated 30 to 40 billion US dollars a year to counterfeits.
Billion with a B. Wow. But beyond the money, you mentioned health and safety risks earlier.
Yes, and this is critical. It goes way beyond just buying something poor quality that breaks. We're talking serious dangers. Counterfeit pharmaceuticals that don't work, or worse, contain harmful ingredients.
Like fake medicine.
Exactly. Unsafe electronics that could catch fire. Contaminated food products. The examples are horrifying. Remember the melamine adulterated milk scandal in China back in 2008?
Vaguely, yeah. That was terrible.
Led to 6 infant deaths. Over 50,000 babies got sick. Or go back further. Spain, 1981. Industrial rapeseed oil sold as olive oil. Nearly 700 people died. Over 20,000 were poisoned.
Oh my God. That's from counterfeit food.
Yes. It shows the extreme end of the risk. And even when it's not lethal, this trade destroys consumer trust. Not just in the brands being faked, but in the whole market system the regulators meant to protect us.
Like the fake baby formula issue you mentioned.
Right, in China. That caused such a loss of trust in local brands, people desperately sought more expensive imported formula, even if they could barely afford it, because they just didn't trust what was on the local shelves anymore.
So you think you're just saving money on a bag, but the system producing it could also be putting fake, dangerous medicine or food out there.
That's the interconnectedness. The same networks, the same disregard for safety often fuels both.
Which brings up a key question then. If the risks are potentially so high and the connections so shady, why do people still buy fakes?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the sources suggest it's complicated. On one hand, a huge majority of consumers, something like 86%, say they would avoid fakes if they knew more about the negative impacts, like the crime links or safety risks.
So awareness helps.
It seems to. But price and just plain affordability are still massive drivers. For many people, the perceived bargain, getting that look for less, still outweighs the potential downsides, or maybe the downsides aren't fully understood or believed.
It's that tension between the desire for the item and the reality of its origins.
Exactly. It highlights just how complex this whole issue is. It's not just criminals doing bad things. It taps into consumer demand, economic pressures. It's a real tangle.
So it's clear then, this world of counterfeit goods, whether you encounter it in Bangkok or on Canal Street or online, It's vastly more complex, more consequential than it looks on the surface.
Definitely. It's this huge, shadowy network. Driven by organized crime, yes, but also exploiting every crack in global supply chains.
And impacting everything from national economies right down to our individual health, safety, and even human rights through forced labor.
Yeah, being informed about it really means seeing those connections, realizing that what feels like a small, maybe harmless personal choice, buying that fake bag, can actually plug into this much larger, quite damaging global issue.
It's definitely a case where understanding the hidden parts helps you see the whole picture differently.
Knowledge helps you navigate what's actually a surprisingly complex reality out there.
Well, this deep dive certainly shows the fight against this illicit trade is.
Yeah.
It's ongoing, it's got many facets, and it really needs vigilance from governments, from industries.
And from all of us, really, as consumers, as citizens.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.